Welcome to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And I'm Emilio Palafox.
And today we have a super special guest, one of my personal heroes. You guys, this woman, listen in right now because you do not want to miss her stories. Amberly Lago, babe, tell the world about her and why she is so special.
Absolutely. So much to say, guys. Beautiful woman, inside and out. So happy to have you. Amberly Lago, everybody. She is a health and wellness coach, TEDx speaker, podcaster, and a leading expert in the field of resilience and transformation. She is the best-selling author of True Grit and Grace and empowers people all over the world by sharing her story, how she turned tragedy into triumph. Through her book, coaching methods, and workshops, she has curated unique tools to teach others how to tap into their superpower of resilience and persevere through any of life's challenges. She offers hope and solutions for anyone like her living in chronic pain to live life to the fullest. Amberly has most recently been featured on NBC's The Today Show, The Doctors, Hallmark, Good Morning La La Land, contributed to magazines such as Shape, Fit Pregnancy, Health, Keynote Speaker Magazine, and Disability Magazine, and more. We are just so happy to have you, Amberly, and just welcome to the Relationship Renegade show.
Oh my goodness. Y'all, this is a dream come true for me that I am sitting here talking with you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, and thanks so much for having me here to be with your audience.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. All right, so I just want to dive right in because people just need to hear your story because I will say myself, just get ready, guys. If you're listening, if you're watching, this is a tearjerker. I've been crying all morning, and I'm going to continue to cry because her story just is so powerful and it touches me so much. And I will say that I was having a rough morning. I was feeling sorry for myself because I was not feeling good. And as soon as I started listening to your stories, I was like, oh my gosh. I just felt so lit up, so inspired. My whole perspective changed. And all of a sudden, all I wanted to do was just go help and serve and empower people like you do. So Amberly, just kick us off. Tell us about what happened to you and your story, and what is this whole concept of, true grit and grace?
Well, sometimes I think when you hear somebody's introduction and their bio, and I hear the word expert, I'm like, really the only thing I'm an expert at is I have just failed and fallen and been hit by a car literally as of last month 3 times and walked away. And so I'm just someone who has been able to fall and fail and struggle, and I hit rock bottom and I was able to get back up. And now what I really just sets my soul on fire and what I'm passionate about is just sharing the tips and tools I've learned along the way, because honestly, it hasn't been easy. I was, a former professional dancer like you. I think that's one of the reasons I loved you so much the first time I met you, because I was like, oh my God, look at her dancing. And just your energy and positivity is so contagious. But I moved to California 30 years ago and was a professional dancer and then an elite trainer. And so my whole life was movement and teaching, and I was sponsored by Nike. And then after 2 failed marriages, I finally met the man of my dreams. We had a baby, and I thought, this is it. Life is good. My dreams have come true. And in the blink of an eye, everything changed. When I was coming home from work, I was on my motorcycle. And when you ride a motorcycle, you really learn to drive defensively, meaning you really look out to see if people see you. And I made eye contact with this guy. I thought, okay, he sees me. Well, I guess he didn't see me. He shot out of the parking lot. And the only thing I could do was try to jump off my motorcycle. So I let go of the clutch and I thought, I can't believe this is happening. Hit me. I immediately felt pain. I was thrown about 30 feet and I was sliding. You guys know Ventura Boulevard because we live near each other. Sliding across the boulevard, and it's one of the busiest streets in LA. And all I could think is, oh, please don't let another car hit me. Please don't let another car hit me. And I curled into a ball. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and it was just completely broken into pieces. I had my leggings on from training clients that day. And I feel like the only thing that was holding my leg together were my leggings. And my foot was off. Blood was squirting out everywhere. It was like one of those horror movies where that you see that like really happens. And so I started screaming, call 911. I was afraid to let go of my leg and try to reach for my phone because I really thought my leg might fall off. And luckily, a guy made a tourniquet around my leg. He ripped his belt off, quickly made a tourniquet. That saved my life because good thing I didn't realize how fast you can bleed out when your femoral artery is severed. But he pretty much saved my life. I still today don't know who this man is. Oh my God. And then I wish I could find him. And then, I realized, oh my gosh, this must look really scary because people weren't running over to me. They were stopped. One lady fainted. And then someone came over slowly and she grabbed my hands and she said, you need to breathe. Just breathe with me. I'm a nurse. The ambulance got there. My husband arrived quickly. They shut Ventura Boulevard down, loaded me into the ambulance. And one of my first thoughts was, oh gosh, I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. That was one of my first thoughts. And I realized later that one of my defaults is, well, what can I do next? And if it's not, and then recently, just last month, my daughter and I got hit by a car. We were riding our scooters and a guy flew through the parking lot and hit both of us head on. And in the ambulance, again, because of my previous accident, I thought to myself, okay, what do I need to learn from this? And which seems kind of crazy when you're in the back of an ambulance, but I thought, and some of you listening might be thinking, well, good Lord, girl, you need to learn to look both ways. That's what you learn. But, luckily this past accident wasn't as serious. We were released out of the hospital after 6 hours and we were both so grateful. But the motorcycle accident, I had no idea that this would change my life the way it has. I was rushed to the hospital and put in induced coma. And, when I was in the hospital room, my husband's a cop. And so news in the police force travels fast when you call 911 and it's like, oh, we got one down. Like the emergency room was filled with cops. They actually thought I was a cop that had been hit. And I heard just this crying, this wailing, like a sound I'd never heard before. I realized it was my husband. Now he's a big, strong guy. Wow. He's 6'3". He's big. I had never seen him cry, and he was freaking out. Now I'm basically like strapped to the gurney. I had no idea what he saw. And I yelled across the room, honey, I need you to get over here and be strong for me. And at that moment, it's because I didn't know if I was going to live. And I needed to know that he was going to be there for our daughters. And so this nurse, this beautiful nurse, I'm still friends with her. Her name's Shaniqua. She leaned over me and she said, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better. And that's the last thing I remember before I woke up. And they said, you're going to lose your leg. We have to amputate it. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You only have a 1% chance of saving your leg. And I said, well, 1% chance? Well, then there's still a chance. We got to find a doctor.
That's right.
You're saying there's a chance.
You got to hang on to that glimmer of hope. And you know what? That 1% chance was the glimmer of hope that I needed. And that got me through 34 surgeries. Actually, I just had to go for a checkup to the doctor yesterday, who happens to know Dr. Wiss, who saved my leg with 34 freaking surgeries. I had no idea I'd have to have that many surgeries. But just reached out and got his email and going to contact him to see if he will be on my podcast, because he's my hero. He never gave up on me when other doctors were not willing to save my leg, and also at a time where I had broke some metal in my leg and he had to do another surgery to replace the metal. He did a 10.5-hour surgery on my leg, and he didn't give up on me because he knew how hard I worked and how much I wanted to keep my leg. I wanted to dance again. I wanted to, be able to walk again. And it's been a really crazy journey. Doctor said that I would be wheelchair bound because of a nerve disease I was diagnosed with as a result of the trauma. But I think that when you hang on to hope, when you have faith and you really tune into what you know is your truth and your purpose in life. And for me, I wanted more. I wanted joy. I wanted to thrive. I wanted to get up again. The doctor in the hospital that he was the one that sewed my femoral artery back together. One of the last things he said to me, he said, well, you're going to dance again. He said, and I want you to save a dance for me. Oh. So when I was finally upright on my crutches, I went to go see him. Oh, it makes me emotional thinking about it. And I told him, I said, you saved my leg. You saved my life. You put my femoral artery back together. And I wrote him this big thank you note, and I guess he cried because when he left, the nurses came in and said, well, Dr. Jabor is a tough guy. He's an off-duty cop, and you made him cry. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean to. I just wanted him to know that I saved that dance for him. And so I think when we have something to look forward to, like being able to dance with your doctor, those little things can carry us so far, And so yeah, when you have an introduction as best-selling author and this and that, I'm like, I never in a million years imagined I would write a book. I lived my whole life on the dance floor and the gym floor and decided I wanted to try and serve more and inspire people to never give up. And so I hand wrote my entire book and then went to the Apple store, bought a computer, had to take a class on how to use it. That's why when we were getting started here, I was like, I'm so impressed with your technical skills. It's all new to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you hand wrote your book first.
Yeah, and then
I hand wrote the whole book. Wow. And then I typed it out. I mean, there was some towards the end. In the middle of writing my book, I really spiraled down. It took me 2 years to write the book. And in the middle of writing my book is when I hit rock bottom, when I was at my lowest, at a time where I really did not want to live anymore. And I thought, you know what? My husband deserves a better wife. He could find a better wife. He could find somebody. My kids, they could find another mom. Like, these thoughts were going through my head, and nothing was working for the disease I was diagnosed with, called complex regional pain syndrome. And it's dubbed the suicide disease because you are left in constant chronic pain every single day. There are treatments and Band-Aids, but there has been nothing that people can find. And believe me, I've spent thousands. I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. We had a lien on our house. We had borrowed money from friends. I mean, I was in a dark spot. I started drinking every day to try to self-medicate, to numb out shame and not just the pain, but the emotional pain as well. And there was a point where I was in, and I think writing the book is what got me to that place, because I was looking at a lot of past trauma that I thought I had dealt with, and I had never really dealt with it. So I think that when you write, it is such it's cathartic. It was really cathartic for me to write the book. But I almost didn't finish it because it was a rough time in the middle. And in the middle of writing it is when I got sober. I asked for help from people. I connected to God more. I pray every day. And it's been the greatest gift of sobriety, has just been able to have a life of joy, get to connect with beautiful people like you, have a relationship with my husband and my kids. And so I think that my kids were my inspiration at my darkest time. Like, I thought, I want to show them what resilience looks like, not what a victim looks like. And I think that we get to choose whether we're going to be the victor or the victim.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to cry. I don't know how you hear that story.
I mean, Amberly, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. And we truly believe that, this is resilience. First of all, is such a big word for me. It's one of my most favorite words. Rachel knows this. And when I used to do this heart math coaching, I don't know if you've heard of the Heart Math Institute, but I love their definition of resilience, which is the ability to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenges, and adversity. And
I love that.
And I mean, you are an absolute embodiment of resilience. And I think what a great time that we're talking to you now, because I feel like, there's people out there, especially with the pandemic and everything that they may be going through. I think a lot of people, I don't think we'll know until years down the line, like what other things are happening, whether it's, domestic violence also, and PTSD and anxiety, all these things that are getting talked about, but I think there's so much behind closed doors that we have nobody, that we don't know yet. And one of my favorite quotes is that, life is like the ocean. There's always going to be waves. The good news is that you can learn how to surf. And I think with the pacer that we want to get into, of course, I think it was a great way to really jump on that surfboard, if you will, to ride these waves that you were facing, these very incredibly hard, chronic pain type waves, if you will. And I just, thank you for sharing all that. And I can't wait to dive deeper to showcase all the different ways that people can navigate through their pain and through whatever they're going through. So, yeah.
And I just want to share too that growing up a dancer and really into movement, I share that same love of the ability to move my body. And, I know that there's so many people out there, same thing, whether you're a group, an athlete or a dancer or just you love movement. How did you, because I put myself in your shoes sometimes and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I could do it. I just don't know if I could do what she did. And I'm really tough, I'm really strong, but I really put myself in that situation and I don't know what I would do. How did you do it? How did you get through it?
Yeah.
You're making me cry. You're making me cry. You know what? When I first got out of the hospital, in the hospital, I want to take you way back. In the hospital, I think that it was a blessing that I grew up an athlete and a dancer, because that really taught me grit. That taught me how to get through a lot of hard times. And I also grew up with, cowgirl up and suck it up. And that worked for a long time. It helped me push through a lot of pain. But I also knew that movement was my medicine. I knew that it mentally made me feel better. So I knew if I could just move any way I could, that I would feel better. So I asked the doctors to install a pull-up bar in my hospital bed, because I was in the hospital for 3.5 months. And I thought, I can't stand up. I'm completely bedridden and I have bed sores, but I can keep my upper body strong. I had one of the trainers, this big buff dude named Danny. I was like, Danny, can you take a couple of dumbbells from the gym for me? And I need to work my arms. And so he brought me these little weights and I was doing curls and everything I could to stay strong, but not in a way to try to work out to look better. I mean, that would have been awesome, but I did it because it made me feel capable and it made me feel like I was moving forward in the right direction. And the hard part was when I got home. So when I got home, I was in a hospital bed and now it's like, oh, wow, it's just me. And, I have to figure out how I'm going to use the bathroom. I know that sounds crazy, but my biggest goal when I got home from the hospital was how am I going to use the bathroom on my own? Because my husband had to go back to work and I was bedridden. I couldn't stand up and put my leg down. So I would practice standing up for seconds at a time. And now you have to know my leg, all the nerves, the calf muscle was in the front of my leg. I had compartment syndrome, so nothing was working properly. And I would stand up and all the blood would get stuck down at the bottom of my leg. And it was the worst pain ever. My leg was still, full of stitches and some parts still exposed. And so every day I would stand up and practice 1 second, 2 seconds. Okay, I stood up for 2 seconds. So my goal would be, let me see what I can do tomorrow. Today I only got 2 seconds, but tomorrow I am shooting for 10 seconds. And little by little, I got to use the bathroom on my own because I could stand up long enough to use my crutches to make it to the bathroom, sit on the toilet, put my leg up, and then make it back to the hospital bed. And I know that's kind of graphic and it seems crazy, but I think if I would have had these big goals, like I want to do the cha-cha again, or I want to tap dance again, it would have seemed impossible to me. So I had to focus on one day at a time, one step at a time, and seeing what I could do. And I remember the first time that I was actually able, we have a Starbucks right down the street, like it's a block away. And I thought, I am going to be able to walk down to Starbucks and sit and have coffee with a friend. And it took me about 45 minutes to walk halfway down the block. And I had to stop and I'd prop my leg up on this little ledge. I knew that I would have places to put my leg up. So I'd walk and I'd prop my leg up. And now when I got there, I had looked at my leg. I looked like I had been to war and back. I mean, the top of my leg was completely, I had skin grafts. So I had no skin on the top of my leg, and the bottom of the leg was just, it was crazy. It looked like Frankenstein, but I had seen it so much. I think I was a little bit like immune to how scary it looked. And I was so proud. I finally made it to Starbucks. I'm sitting there. I got my leg propped up, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, "God, what happened to you?" And I said, "Oh, I was in a motorcycle accident." And he said, "Ooh, good thing I didn't marry you because I would divorce you." Whoa. And I was just like, oh my just God. Like crushed. So here I was like, I was like in a moment of glory. Like it had taken me almost 4 months to walk that way with crutches, out of a wheelchair. I was out of a wheelchair. Now, doctors told me it'd take me 2 years. And I was like, holy cow, I'm up. And then I thought, woo, this is a whole new learning thing. I mean, I hated my leg. Other people hate it. That was something I really had to get through, was learning to love myself, my leg, and love my way through it. And that has been a really hard process. And actually, Dr. Wiss is the one who really shifted my perspective with that. And
gosh, who
it was
says that? I want to go just beat that guy up. Like, who says something like that?
I was like, well, I never even remember us going out on a date. Like, where'd you get married?
Right.
Like, I would ever marry you.
Yeah.
Like, what? So tough.
And by the way, if you guys are just joining us, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're talking to Amberly Lago, and she's sharing her story. And, you've mentioned your book quite a bit of time, but for those listening, it's True Grit and Grace. Not only her book, but her podcast. It's phenomenal. And I love that. I love that you talk about both the true grit, like we were talking about, being able to push through, but also the grace part of that, which I know you go into detail with the PACER method that you go by, but I think it's important to have those balance, to really have those, because I think a lot of times when we're going through certain things, it's just one or the other. But I'd love to, have our listeners start to, and even before we go into that, when you mentioned the CRPS and this pain that you're going through, like, one of the things I remember from the TED Talk and other things while researching was like, I had no idea that it was like number one on the pain scale.
Oh yeah,
that epidemic. Like more than childbirth and kidney stones. Like this is real pain. And so the fact that you developed something called PACER that even at that level, you were able to navigate through all of that and become, bigger, faster, stronger, if you will. I can't wait to get into it, and so that
tell our audience about Pacer and what that is and how that.
You know what? Thank you for bringing that up, because I have to be real with you. This is what helps me get through pain. Now, I've tried every other kind of treatment. Yeah. And with pain, physical pain, comes emotional pain. It comes anxiety, depression. There's a whole roller coaster of emotions that come along with pain. And so for me, when nothing was working, I had ketamine infusions, spinal stimulator, I don't even know how many spinal blocks I've had, dozens of spinal blocks. And at one time I was on 73 homeopathic pills a day and 11 different prescriptions, and nothing was working. And it wasn't until I really started to look at what I could do to be resilient. And it is the grit and the grace. It's the grit to push a little further than you thought you could go, but it's also giving yourself the grace, the self-compassion, the love. And so you're right. I think they do go hand in hand. And I looked at what I was doing every day that allowed me to walk, that allowed me to go to work again, that allowed me to play with my daughter and be the wife that I want to be. Well, not always. He always says, I don't know. I'm not trying to do it. But Pacer is really something that helps me every day build my resilience, whether it's, I'm dealing with feeling sad or anxious or oh my God, why is my pain so bad? What did I not do today? What can I do better? Because I need something quick. I need one word that's going to remind me. And so Pacer stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And the perspective part is so important. It's what I do every single day. And I think the quickest and easiest way to shift your perspective is really to get grateful. And so I start my day before my feet hit the floor. I say a prayer and say, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for this breath. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And then I get up and I walk like I'm about 110 years old. It takes me a while to move around before I get this old leg of mine. This leg that's getting better moving.
Yeah. Words are powerful.
Words are powerful.
Right
there.
I love that you talk about gratitude as alchemy, by the way. Can you talk a little about that before we move on to acceptance? Because I'm gosh,
it's true though.
Gratitude is so powerful, and I have this future gratitude practice that we both do, and it's been so life changing. But the way you talk about gratitude is unlike I've ever heard it. So if you can go into that would be awesome.
Well, you know what? It really did change my life. It didn't just change it because I still have to work on it every day, and I still practice it. Mm-hmm. And when you practice it every single day, it does change your life. I think when you really look for the blessings or hunt for the good, or, when I'm having a hard day, like every day when I wake up and I have pain immediately, I shift my perspective by thinking, oh my goodness, it could be so much worse. Before I couldn't walk, I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom on my own. I am so grateful that I can walk. And it can be something as simple as, people say, oh, I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for my husband or my daughter. And that's all good too. But I think when you really focus on things that maybe you take for granted sometimes, like, and how you look at it. So for me, it's like, I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. When you can just shift one word or shift the way that you view something. And I think that it is alchemy because it turns what you don't have into what you do have, and what you can't do into what you can do. Because, there was a day I was, couldn't find a parking place, and I was like, oh my gosh, my leg is hurting so bad. How am I going to walk all the way to that store? It's too far. It was a really challenging day. And I started immediately going into this pity party of, life's unfair. Why does this happen? And then I was like, wait a minute. I have crutches in the back of my car. I can use crutches. I'm lucky that I can go to the store. It's all how we view it. And for me, I start with a prayer of gratitude and intention. And I go first thing and I write in my journal. Then I have an accountability partner, because when I'm slacking on my gratitude practice, my accountability partner's like, yeah, I didn't get your gratitude message this morning. Are you okay? What's going on?
Yes.
What are you grateful for? And I think that's really important, to be accountable to, a friend or a coach or a mentor or whoever it might be, some like-minded person, because that really helps you. And then every night, my daughter and I get in bed and cuddle with like our little 3-pound dog. And I say to her, what was the best thing that happened to you today? Ruby, what was the best thing? And, it might be that she danced silly, or she got to jump on her horse, or that she got to run around the arena with her horse. Whatever it may be, it gets your mindset focused on the good things that happened. Because I feel like we're so wired for negativity. It's like, it's some negative comments, man, they stick like Velcro. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have had this happen, but I can have, like when I did the doctor's TV, I had so much amazing feedback. And then I had the one person that was like, you know what? You can't get rid of pain by being mindful. Oh my gosh, I have to explain myself. And oh my gosh, and it's like, we have to do things to practice them daily so we don't get caught up into the negativity, but we shift our perspective on all the good that's going on. And I think that by being in gratitude, it's cheaper than any medicine. It's faster, it's easier, and it has changed my life.
And I just have to say real quick that I resonate with that. So I literally, when I first did Center Stage, my first movie, right? It was like my biggest dream come true. I was so excited. I had so many nice comments about, like, wow, you're a great actress. What an amazing movie. It changed my life. And then there was those few that were like, you're a terrible actress. You should never act again. Why did anybody ever hire you? And, like, she smiles too much. She's blah, 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 like, la, 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 all the things. And I almost quit. Like, I literally was because, and, I had to do, this is why we're so passionate about this kind of work, right? I had to, like, really change my perspective, because all I could think about were those couple very negative things that were said, although there was hundreds, thousands of nice things that were said, so I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I want to make it super real for people, like how many times we can stop doing things that we love or our purpose or our passion because there was a couple negative things said about us, but we totally neglect the all the amazing things that were said, or even the one life that we might have been able to change.
Yeah. And I remember I was actually in Salt Lake City, and actually I think you were supposed to speak at the Powerful Women's event, and I thought I was going to get to see you, and then you booked a job or
a movie at the same time. I wish I could have been at both.
Yeah.
Well, I know. I was like so excited to meet you. And right before that was when my doctor's interview aired. And it was the first time I'd ever had any haters. And I'm about to go on stage and speak about empowerment. And I felt I was letting it get to me.
Yeah.
And I had to like take a step back. I had to, get out of the people that were the toughest on me were people that I was in a support group for CRPS, and there were some that they were just slamming me. Then I had other people that were going and say, no, Amberly means well, she's been through this. I mean, it was like a war, and it's weird to see people talking about you. And somebody had said, oh, well, I messaged that author, and I'm like, they're speaking as if I'm not a person. I'm just like you. I struggle with the pain every day, and I'm just trying to share a message of what helps me and works for me. And I remember having to take a step back, and I called my husband, and I was like, I can't believe it. There's all these haters. And he said, well, that's good. Congratulations. About time you got some haters. Get your message out there.
Perspective, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, And then I was like, oh. And then, you know what? It makes you there's like a line in the road, like, how much do you believe in your message? And I was like, this makes me believe in my message even more because I know it works. I know it works. Yeah. And, and so it was when you can kind of look at it differently, again, shift your perspective around it, but it's not easy. I mean, it hurt my heart.
It's a practice for sure, and it's really repping the muscle every day, like you said. And it's so funny. Even last night we were watching. We hadn't seen this in years, but Rachel was like, "Oh, let's pick that movie," and it was Patch Adams. And I don't know if you've seen that by Robin Williams. Patch Adams.
I haven't.
Watch it tonight.
I have to see that.
I mean, it's an old movie with Robin Williams, and he wants to become a doctor, and it's his journey to become a doctor, but he kind of goes against the grain, if you will, from the traditional doctors, and without going too deep into that. But I remember one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up is about, how the hater that came on and say, just by being mindful you can change, eliminate your pain, really, blah blah blah. And it's like, look, I went through this. This is what helped. This is what happened. It was really easy. It was quick. It was fast. There's all these other things, but this did work. And one of the things I remember Patch Adams, Robin Williams in the movie talking about is that a lot of time they were worried about fixing the disease, and they didn't concentrate on the actual patient. It was patient 105, right? Or it wasn't Amberly Lago in the room, first of all, and then second, whether it was the kids or the adults, he was wanting them to improve the quality of life while they were treating the disease. And so he would make them laugh and smile. Yeah. And they did a lot of tests, him and his colleagues, and got feedback that, like, in those moments when they were laughing and loving, and they forgot about their pain. Yeah. And it's like sometimes, like, having a good deep belly laugh, or having a shift in alchemy with gratitude, or the things that we're talking about now, like, can very well take you away from the pain, whether it's for a moment or a sustained moments, and then on to the next and on to the next. And so I wanted to, I guess, add on to that as well. And I love that we're talking about, really, it's this, like, getting 1% better every day. Not like, hey, let's just run the marathon right away. It's like, let's get 1% better, whether it's in a moment in time like you went through, or anything in life. Like, let's just get 1% better every day. Yeah. And then obviously when we look back, like, wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah. The baby steps, right? Like, we're talking about, like, tiny habit creation rather than this, like, huge habit creation. Because, like you said, so many times those huge, I personally think, we talk about this, that, like, goal setting is maybe flawed. That there maybe is a healthier way to set goals for ourselves, and maybe it is this baby steps or tiny habit creation. Because so many times, just with so many people, if you set these huge and then, not to say that you can't dream big. It's not about not dreaming big, but it's like, what's the big dream? But then what's the tiny action I'm going to do every day that's going to build the muscles that will help me get to the big goal or the big dream, Yeah,
I love that. And I think that when you can do those small, tiny, actionable steps, that's what builds your confidence every single day. Yeah. And if you stick to it, like this morning, I was like, okay, I have got to get back to working out. We've been working out in our garage. I was like, but I need, like, the leg press. And I used to work at a physical therapy facility, and they so graciously still let me have a key to the place. So I was like, but I have to go work out before anybody gets there. So that means I have to get up at like 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning. Wow. But by waking up and doing that and not making excuses about it, then I build my confidence. Even if I said, you know what, I'm going to go for 30 minutes. That's a little check on my scorecard for, I said I was going to do something and I did it. So it just builds your confidence. Now, if I would have said, I am going to make buns of steel tomorrow, and I was like, well, they're still not steel yet. But if I said, well, I'm going to do the gym, and today, the next day, then I slowly get there. It's progress, not perfection. But I think in order to do those things, you have to be in acceptance, which is the next part of Pacer.
Yes, acceptance. Yes, go in.
And before we go into that, just for people that are listening, if you guys are just tuning in and you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, and given the time we're going to stop and go into a quick rapid fire question, our first segment. So a little cliffhanger, guys. If you guys are interested and just tuned in, we're talking about Pacer with Amberly Lago. Really this tool, this method that has allowed her to build more resilience in her life and to navigate through a lot of her chronic pain that she's experienced from her tragedy to triumph. And so please stay tuned with us. We're going to get to know Amberly a little bit, a little bit more with these rapid fire questions, but stay tuned so we can get to figure out what the A...
miss it. The AC and the ER are.
Yes. So here we go.
Rapid fire. All right. So rapid fire segment is just a fun segment. These are just really fun questions that you have to answer fast. It's like gut reactions.
Okay. Quick.
All right. So Ben, kick us off.
You want me to kick you off? Okay,
Yes.
Here we go. So Amberly Lago, if you're having a bad day and you want some good food and you just like, what's the first thing you're going to get if you have a bad day? Like what's your go-to?
Oh, frozen yogurt is my weakness.
Frozen yogurt, noted.
I know, right? Noted.
Yeah, awesome. What kind of frozen yogurt?
Oh, any kind, really.
Any kind.
I don't know. It's just like my go-to. It's like comfort, yummy.
Yeah.
Sit on the sofa and chill out. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it.
on.
All right.
It's probably the unhealthiest thing I do. Like
You gotta have a couple in there. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So, question number 2: what is one of your favorite childhood experiences?
I would say the first time that I ever went on vacation with my grandparents. They took us to Branson, Missouri. It was not much there, but it was like, oh my gosh, we get to go on a road trip and make candles and be in the country, and it was just joyous and just being with them. So yeah, that was probably one of my best childhood memories.
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
All right, rapid fire question number 3. What is the song you hear most often?
Oh God. Well, lately my 12-year-old is into rap. And I'm not really into it, but we get in the car and that's what we listen to. So it's mostly that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And some of it's
old school rap, new rap?
Oh, some of it has cuss words in it.
Yeah.
Because it's streamed or whatever. I don't know. And I'm like, Ruby, that's all, you know the words to that? We got to turn that off. But if it's my choice, I get in the car and either listen to podcasts or if I'm listening to music, I put on like Sheryl Crow or Sarah McLachlan or something like that. It just kind of calms me down and takes me back to my dancing days years ago.
Amazing.
I love it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, one of my favorite questions to ask: if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh gosh. This was supposed to be quick. There's so many.
I know.
I think a superpower of serenity. So I could just like cast a magic wand over people and they could find peace within themselves.
Oh, I love that one.
That was a beautiful one.
I've never heard
serenity.
that. That is so awesome.
That's a great one. That's a good one.
Right? Because it's not saying, hey, I'm not going to take away your challenges. I'm just going to help you have a little bit more serenity and peace throughout them, which I love because one of your main messages is that to find, like the beauty in the breakdown, the peace through the pain, which I think is so powerful because in the world that we live in, myself included, it's like, you want that quick fix. You're like, isn't there just a pill? Can I just take a pill and make it all go away?
And the thing is, it might not get easier, but we get stronger. We get more resilient and we get through it.
Which kind of leads in, let's get back into Pacer, because I want really to get back into that. And I know we already talked about the first letter, which is P, the second letter being A. Can we dive into that? Yeah,
acceptance, that was probably the hardest for me. I did not want to, I was in denial. I grew up learning the art of denial. Like, you seriously hide your crazy and be a lady. If you're upset or something's going on, you just pretend like everything's okay. I remember it was very reinforced in my family, being a Southern belle, and you just put a smile on your face. And as a dancer, my dance teacher, when I was in teacher training, she said, I don't care if your best friend just died. When the needle goes on the record, you turn around and you have a smile on your face for your class. And so I really learned to suck it up, and it got me through a lot. But when I was at my lowest point, it was because I could not suck it up anymore. I was like, I can't keep doing this. I remember my husband has a hard time, like if I cry, he's like, oh my God, you're my rock. What's going on? You're falling apart. What? He freaks out. So I remember when I was struggling a lot when I got out of the hospital and my leg was closed up enough that I could do therapy in our swimming pool. I remember going to the swimming pool so I could cry. So because they couldn't see my tears in the water. And I remember one day my husband came around the corner. He goes, are you crying? Oh. And I was like, no, I'm not crying. Okay. I'm tough, but it wasn't until I went to the doctor and was like, look, I hate my leg. It gives me too much pain. I know you've done 34 surgeries to save it, but we need to just go ahead and cut it off. Oh, and he was like, we can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? I was like, it's holding me back. We got to let this guy, I need to move on. And kind of like the quick fix you were talking about, just give me a pill I was like, just amputate my leg. Everything will be okay. And it wasn't until he said, you have a nerve disease. It could spread. We can't amputate your leg. It could make it worse. That's when I was like, oh my God, this is the rest of my life? Really? This is it? And it was like, I came to the conclusion, these are the cards I've been dealt, and I can choose to sit in pity, or I can accept that this is where I am. I have this nerve disease, and what can I do next? So I think that when you're in acceptance, it allows you, instead of me thinking about, I feel defeated, it allows me to go, this is what it is. And I can take action steps to move forward to make my life the best that it can be. So acceptance is for anybody, whether, because whether you're shopping too much, eating too much, drinking too much, speed dating, whatever you're doing, maybe you're focusing on other people's problems more than you're really taking a look at what is going on with you in your world. I think when we can really stop and take a look at what's going on in our lives, and let those feelings rise to the surface, because man, it drives everything we do, our relationships, our jobs, our careers, the way we parent, the way we live, the way we lead. And so I think that when we can look at that and be in acceptance, it's the first step of really launching our lives into the most abundant life, the best and healthiest life. And so acceptance is huge. Wasn't easy, but it's possible.
Gosh, and if anyone's listening to and having a hard time, a book came up for me because I think acceptance has always been something that is really difficult for me. Again, growing up an athlete and growing up without, I could just tough it out. No, I'll just push through the pain. And kind of denying what actually is and creating that resistance is this book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Have you read that?
Oh, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
really I'm taking notes here.
Yeah, it's so good for everybody listening. That ultimately is probably one of the biggest books that had the most impact on my life, and I recommend it to everybody. We use it with all of our clients. She gives such a powerful practice, these 4 questions that help people get to a place of acceptance and to stop arguing with reality, but just to learning how to love what is.
Yeah.
And so it's really powerful.
Yeah. So for those listening,
it's life changing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So after you get the true grit and grace, get the Byron Katie's Loving What Is.
Yeah, because you got to hear the story first, and then you can have the lens.
But what I love about when you talk about the doctor looking at your leg and you talking about how looking at it as a piece of art in that moment and really that kind of changing things for you reminded me of a quote from, I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer, that we love. It's like, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think, with anything in life, I think it's like we always talk about, right? If you just, again, it goes back to the perspective, like you put a different lens on, you're like, wow. And then you can kind of and I remember you talking about how that helped you in accepting that, and then letting go
changed.
of the shame I think that you had, and all these things, and it's got we just got to let go of all of that, whatever anybody is going through right now, right? I think that's so huge.
Oh, well, hate's a 4-letter word in our family, and I really hated my leg and myself. And I remember it was in the middle of August out here in the valley, and it was about 110 degrees, and I was wearing some boots that came up over my knee with shorts, and my girlfriend said, "It is so hot outside. Why are you wearing those boots?" And I said, "Because I'm covering up all my scars." And she said, "You mean you're going to wear those boots for the rest of your life to cover up your scar?" I said, "Oh yeah, I am." And I wasn't in acceptance of the way I looked, and I didn't love myself. And when that doctor looked at my leg differently, I think sometimes we need people to knock some perspective into us, to knock some confidence, or see more in us when we can't see it ourselves, or love us until we can love ourselves. And thankfully, I have a husband who loved me before I loved myself. I mean, he really helped me love myself again. And when I could really start to look at my leg differently is when it changed, and it became, I looked at it as, oh my gosh, look, these scars are like from the battles I have won. Look at what I got through,
Yes.
And so I think I wanted to set an example for my daughters too, to not be ashamed of how you look. It's what you've been through and what you've conquered, and it tells a story. So be proud of that. And so it really has been life-changing.
And I think for everyone listening too, I think this can go for like the scars that we may have, like physically, but not only physically, but mentally and emotionally and spirit, like whatever things that have happened in our past that causes guilt or shame or sadness or anger, whatever it is. I think like that, just knowing that that's who you are, but like that also just doesn't define you either. That like we have this spirit inside of us, and I think so many times we just like get attached to like this is who we are, and we're so much greater than that. And so I think with whether it's physical, mental, or emotional scars, to really look at that in these types of ways.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I'll just repeat it again. It's like, it's not what you've been through. It's what you've gone through. It's the battles that you've won, right? Yeah. So if it's a scar of overcoming a past toxic relationship, or if it's a scar of a physical scar that you have, or any sort of traumatic experiences that we've gotten through. I really feel like when we own those, when we share those, even, it's like, it's in you sharing your story. It's in you, like, seeing somebody see you, this beautiful woman with this art piece of a leg, that's been through so much.
I love you.
It's like that. Gosh. That is the most like authentic, vulnerable, and connecting experience. Like, I feel like it's when we hide our scars that we disconnect ourselves from both ourselves as well as others. And right, this show is so much about helping people create a healthy, loving, supportive relationship with themselves, so that they can go create it with everyone else, because you can't give away what you don't have.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
you're so right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like when, you can be in acceptance, and then you can start to share from a scar instead of an open wound. I mean, it took a long time for me to heal and be able to talk about a lot of the shame that I've had and everything that I've been through. I mean, it's taken a while. But when I did, it really connected me to a community of people, and that's the next part of Pacer is community.
Yeah.
And that might be the biggest part. That is, to me, the most rewarding part. And it's been, because I think, yes, I used to think, I got this, I can do it all by myself. I'm tough. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? When you have community, it's powerful. You're unstoppable. And I think that having conversations that count and connecting with, people is so important, especially if you're going through a hard time. And it was the hardest thing for me to do, was reach out for help, because When you're depressed or you're struggling or you're filled with shame, like I was so filled with shame. And that's like the lowest vibrational energy. And just for me to pick up the phone to ask for help, like to admit that I think I got a problem and then ask for help, took every ounce of courage, every bit of energy, but it changed my life if you just reach out. So if anybody is struggling today, reach out. And one of the things that really helped me was reaching out to be of service.
Yeah.
And people go, well, how can you be of service when you were stuck in a hospital bed? And I was like, I was making phone calls to clients. I was making phone calls to other trainers, getting them set up with my clients, and any way I could to be of service. I was giving the nurses exercise tips. They found out I was a trainer. So we were like, we're going to have class. And they would come and hang out in my room. It was like my room was like the party room. I had my own fridge. And so it's a community, whether it's you're in a hospital and you're building up that rally of nurses that they know they can come in your room and it's the party room, or it's a community of people that you build on. Like I have the most amazing tribe on Instagram that I feel like we've got this close group of people that we're always cheering each other on, or it's your close friend, or you've joined a mastermind of entrepreneurs, or whatever it is. Community is powerful.
Yes.
And so I think it takes a lot of endurance, especially with what we're going through right now. And that's the next part. So the community can help you build your endurance, but I think we could all use, to increase our stamina. Whether it's getting through days of COVID, being in LA, I know that the other day when I woke up and they said they were reopening restaurants, I was like, oh my God, there's a little glimmer of hope. All right. But I think that the endurance takes a lot of grit. It takes determination and perseverance. I think that's where our passion and our perseverance come into play. And on days where I'm having a tough time, or I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Did I sign up for too much? What am I doing? Who do I think I am? What I'm like, okay, what is my why? What is the reason that I'm doing it? And I remember the first time I was on my way to give this talk, a presentation. I had never done public speaking before. I had gone out to buy a suit. I am so nervous. Like I'm sweating. My shirt is wet. My armpits are sweating so much. And I'm like, oh my God, freaking out. And I call my dad and I'm like, Dad, I'm about to give this talk to a bunch of lawyers, realtors, and financial advisors. I don't know why they asked me to come and speak to them. And he said, well, are you crazy? Don't you know that public speaking is the number one fear other than, death itself? And then he said, but Amberly, remember, this isn't about you. This is about the people and serving and your message. And that shifted everything. I was like, yeah, this isn't about me. This is about being of service and what can I do and what is my message? And so that really helps me stay motivated. It helps with anxiety. It helps pump me up to increase my endurance. But I think too, it's really important to ask yourself, what brings you joy? What lights you up? And who are the people in your community? And if you have people that are dragging you down, it's time to really set some boundaries. And I think who, maybe sometimes you don't know who those people are, but I guarantee your gut knows, because when they call you and it brings you what do they want? Maybe that's somebody that you need to create some healthy boundaries with. Yes. But you know that person when they call and you see their name on your phone and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're calling me. I can't wait to talk to them. Yeah. Those are the people you need to be hanging out with. Those are the people that are going to fire you up and get your endurance going. Yes. And so those are stick with the puppy uppers and not the doggy downers.
I love that.
I love that.
It's so true. Yeah.
I love that.
And then the last part of Pacer is rest. And I so wanted to just call it PACE, pace through pain, just pace. And I learned the hard way and over that rest had to be included in there. And we have to look at rest as not a luxury, but a necessity, especially not just for our physical, our bodies, but for emotionally, mentally, we need that time to unplug. And it's not always easy, because I feel like, either people are really, really busy at this time, or some people are bored out of their minds. But for me, luckily, it's been really eventful. And if I don't schedule time for me to take a break, or, I just interviewed David Meltzer on my podcast, and I was like, David, how do you do it all? He's like, I schedule a vacation every day. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I take a little vacation. I call it a vacation, and I go for a walk with my wife. And for me, that's going to the barn with my daughter and being out in nature and connecting. That's where I feel like I connect with my higher power. And so I think it's important to find ways to rest when maybe you're in too much pain or you have a never-ending to-do list. But really find ways that work for you and your schedule, because the only way we can be resilient is if we really stop and strategically plan times to rest and recover and refuel.
Yeah. So true. I love that you said it was a necessity, right? Because again, I think high performers or people who are like biohacking or whatever it is, I think there's this, or, if you grew up an athlete of any kind, like there's this feeling of like, oh, I can't rest though. That means I'm weak. That means I don't have it in me, and I can't keep up with everybody else if I rest. This mindset of like, who needs sleep when you could just work 24 hours a day? Sleep when you're dead. Like we have all these messages out there that's like, what? So I think, for myself too, he makes fun of me all the time. He's just like, when do you don't rest? Like, when do you ever? Yeah. But it's a practice. And
It is a practice. And when I came up with Pacer, it was because I was sitting at the kitchen table with my husband, and he could tell I was hurting. I had my leg propped up on the table, and we had Ruby's homework papers and some takeout boxes. And he's like, you really need to pace yourself. And I was like, I do pace myself. And I started writing on the napkin everything that I do. And that's when I came up with Pacer, was sitting at the dinner table. And I'm like, look, I shift my perspective. I'm in acceptance for where I am, and I'm taking these action steps, progress, not perfection. And I've got a community of warriors, and it's about endurance, and I have grit, and I think that it's resting and recovering. He said, he was like, yeah, that's good. You do that. And then it came to the rest. He's like, you are so full of shit. I was like, I do rest. Yeah. And he was like, I said, well, I'm working on it, because it is hard for me. But because growing up a dancer, it was like, no, you don't rest, because there might be somebody that will take your part. Or it looks like you're weak. And I was always taught, pain or pain is weakness leaving the body, and no pain, no gain, and rest when you're dead, and rest later. And it's like, no, we need rest. It should be a necessity.
And I love every single word of Pacer, and I love that you talked about too that community is probably one of the most important ones. Just because when we think about the times that we live in right now, well, even pre-COVID, I think connection and community, we needed so much of that. And then, of course, now given what's happening, we have the Zooms and all that, but I think we're lacking so much of the true connection and community. And whether it's pre-COVID or during COVID or post-COVID, I think we've been asked a lot of times. I've been blessed to be able to build, both of us, some incredible communities and tribes and whatnot. And people have always asked, well, how do you, really do that? And maybe some people don't have friends that are listening, or don't know how to make friends or make new friends. Because you talked about, surround yourself with people that are supporting and lifting. And sometimes that's hard to find, but there's ways that we can do it. And I think you hit it on the nail, where after acceptance and you were able to share your story, hopefully that enables everybody listening to share your story, whatever that is. We all have our stories, because it can be that, if people are thinking how do I do it? It's like, well, be vulnerable, share your story, because you never know what your story could be somebody's survival guide, and your story can really help and inspire people, whatever that is. And it could be the smallest of things or the biggest of things. And I think if people are wondering out there, well, how do I attract these friends? How do I build community? I think you said it, right? It's like, be authentic, share your story, accept where you are in life right now, and just speak about that. And I think that vulnerability, that authenticity is what connect. It's that right there. And so I hope that whether it's on Zoom, whether it's getting a cup at Starbucks, whether it's going to the grocery store, that you make conversations. And I think everyone out there is wanting to connect. You never know what somebody's going through. And I think you were sharing that earlier. So I love the community, that word to that. I love all the words, but I love that you said the community is so important, because especially in these times. And so I hope that people really, listen to that.
And when you're going through pain or a traumatic situation like you went through, is there something that you did specifically? I mean, well, I think you already gave that tip, right? Of like, you were like, how can I be of service?
Yeah.
I think how can I be of service is community.
I think that, when you are good to people, then people are good to you, And so when I was in the hospital, because somebody actually told me, they said, well, you're really lucky because you have, you had a community of people. And I was like, no, your hard work puts you where your blessings can find you. And it's because I had been of service to so many people. I mean, not that you do good and expect good. I mean, hopefully, good comes your way, but you do good because you want to do good, because you have a heart that's giving, that you want to help people. And I think that when you share your story, when you're in pain or you're gone through something traumatic, whether it's a divorce or you're gone through chronic pain or an illness or disease or anything, any kind of trauma, sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you feel like nobody understands. Nobody would understand this. And when you can share your story, it's amazing. You realize I'm not alone. There's somebody else that's gone through something so similar, and you connect on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important. And I think that people are starting to connect more like this through Zooms and listening to podcasts and now Clubhouse.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we got Clubhouse. We got all the things.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, and I really want to just one of our favorite segments of the show is called the Renegade Moment. And, this is the time in your life, in anybody's life, when they chose differently, right? The show's called Relationship Renegades for a reason, because the point of being a renegade is choosing different, is going against the grain. So many times we fall into the trap of just kind of doing the same things, thinking the same things over and over again. What was one of your renegade moments when you were like, all right, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm choosing something different, and how it changed everything for you?
A breakthrough moment.
Well, I think the biggest thing, the most transformational thing for me was, and when you said I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's exactly what I was. When I was drinking, I remember I was never a drinker, never did drugs. I was an athlete. I worked hard with career. And now all of a sudden I was drinking to try to numb out pain. And I remember thinking, this is not my life. This is not, I've got a brother who's sitting on death row in Texas because his drinking and drugs led him there. I have another brother who, I have a history of addiction in my family. And the thing is, addiction does not discriminate. And I had so much shame because I thought, I'm the one that's the achiever and the go-getter and the fitness girl. And how did I become an alcoholic? And there was a lot of shame. My husband did not, he's like, you are not an alcoholic. You do not have a problem, because he arrested people on the streets that were that way. So I think for me, being sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same old story of, I was like, I want more. I want my life. I want to have a life of joy, is when the day I chose to never drink again. And by, the grace of God and God willing, I'll have 5 years of sobriety in March. So that was probably my biggest moment.
That is so incredible. That is so incredible.
Thank you.
I think thank you for sharing that. And I think to anybody listening, what comes to my mind right now when you shared that was, I think we all want to, we're in this world together where we want to help people, right? Live a life of service. And because we want to, hopefully share these stories and have these conversations so that people don't have to go through so much pain and suffering like maybe we did. And so, like whether it's a mentor or a coach or whatever, it's kind of like, let me share whatever I can share so that maybe you can be proactive or take action so that you can learn the lessons faster, if you will, right? And not have to go through so much pain and suffering. But what came to my mind was, I guess I wonder, because I truly believe that, like you talk about a lot, how pain is your number one teacher, right? Like there's lessons in that. But I guess we can't help, right? As humans, like we don't want to have somebody hurt. But unfortunately, sometimes that hurt, maybe, I don't know if this is the word, like needed. Obviously, those are the moments where like you truly change and have these breakthrough moments, these renegade moments. But, it goes along with this story that I remember that I haven't told in a while, but I might chop it up, but I want to share it. It's this guy. He's going to go visit an old friend out on a ranch out in the middle of nowhere. And he goes and visits him, and he walks up the stairs, and he hears his dog crying. And let's just say the guy's name is Joe. He's like, "Hey Joe," he's like, "Your dog's crying over there." And he's like, "Yeah, it's because he's sitting on a nail." And he's like, "What? Why is he sitting? He's crying. He's sitting on a nail. Why is he? Is he all right?" He's like, "Yeah, he'll be fine." So he goes inside, the house. They catch up. They have some food and reminisce on some good old times. And while he's leaving, he hears the dog crying again. He's like, he's been crying the entire time. He's like, "Joe," he's like, what? He's sitting on the nail. Why doesn't he get off of it? And he's like, "Well, it's because it doesn't hurt enough." Mm. And it was something like that just like resonated with me. Like in people with their life, it's sad, and I guess it's unfortunate. It hurts me, the fact that sometimes people in their life, whether it's a toxic relationship, a bad job that they're in, or a bad mindset, or maybe whatever it is that they're going through, that it doesn't hurt enough. And it's unfortunate that like a huge life event sometimes has to like change us to say, "Enough, I'm done, let's begin." Or, and it's like, I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on that. Like, do we need to experience all the pain, or can people be proactive? Is there a balance? Like, it's just so unfortunate that us as humans have to feel so much pain, like you had mentioned the drinking or whatever it is for someone, to finally say enough. Like, it's fascinating to me. It's I wonder about that.
Well, I think that I want to share my message because I don't want people to have to hit a rock bottom like I did. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm at rock bottom. I can stop digging. The only way up to go way to go now is up. Like, I don't want people to have to get to that place where my pain took me because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't in acceptance. So I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't taking the right kind of medication. I was self-medicating. I was in denial. I was like, one day I was training a client. I had just had a surgery, and I was training a client. My husband comes to the gym where I was working, and he's like, "Get off your leg now." And I was like, "What? I'm training Debbie. What?" He goes, "You're bleeding out on the gym floor." And I was sucking it up and pushing through the pain. My stitches had come open and I was bleeding everywhere. And I was in such denial. I was like, yeah, it hurts really bad, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep pushing through. And I would like for people to not have to be in that place where you're not in the moment, you're not listening to your body, you're not, really in touch with your spirit, like in your heart. And I don't think that we have to deal with extreme pain or, you don't have to hit a rock bottom like my brother did. I think that yes, pain has been one of my biggest teachers, but my passion and purpose now is to show people that they can stop and really transform it right now. They don't have to hit that low.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's in sharing these stories, right? In sharing the tips, the tools, the tricks, the awareness that we can help, people get off of the nail, because there's a big difference between, the kind of pain, if you're in chronic pain, as opposed to like pain that we're almost like self-inflicting on ourselves through, repetitive, unhealthy choices that we're making. And I think, I really believe that in sharing your story, even myself, just like this morning, I was feeling bad for myself, and then I hear your story, and all of a sudden it like totally shifts my perspective, and I feel like the luckiest girl in the whole world. I'm reminded of all the things that I actually have, as opposed to focusing on all the things that I was sad about. And so I really do. I think you're helping people get off of the nail, that the dog, the story that the dog was on.
Yeah.
And so I do think that a certain amount of pain can be our greatest teacher, but it's making those renegade choices, those renegade moments to say, okay, here's what is. I'm not arguing with what is, but I am choosing to accept it and to make the most out of it and to help as many people as I can on their journey. I just think it's, that's the powerful thing.
Thank you. I think when you realize that you have a choice, it's empowering, and you have a choice. Like, people can tell you all kinds of stuff. Doctors told me all kinds of things, friends, lots of opinions out there of, but when you think, but no, I have a choice. I can choose to be happy despite my circumstances. And it really is a choice. And when you realize, oh no, well, life isn't, I'm locked down, the sky's kind of gray. I could be really sad about it, that I'm stuck at home or whatever it is. But then you're like, what you choose, like, it's empowering. I get to like spend time with y'all. This is really a dream come true for me. So get to talk to you is like the highlight of my day. And so
Likewise.
I have been looking forward to this. Oh my gosh, I get to it's really a dream come true.
My long lost sister.
Yeah.
I know.
My big sister I never had. There you go.
Oh, yes. I'll be your sister anything.
I love it.
It's so incredible. Well, real quick, before we start to wrap up and finish with our favorite find section of the show, I really want to know, right? Because especially if we're in situations where we have people that we look up to, admire, respect, trust, like, doctors or somebody in a white coat or, that we put on some sort of pedestal. When everybody's telling you, you don't have a shot, you have a 1% chance, what helped you or what gave you that choice, right? That instinct to say, I'm going with the 1%. When when everybody else might have chosen the 99%, okay, let's just amputate it now. You said, no, I have 1% chance. I'm going with it. What helps you be able to get to that place?
I think my default has always been, I was the underdog my whole life. Like, I was always the underdog. And to me, I get motivated by that. Like, in everything I've done, like when I ran track, you had to try out to be on the track team, and they had been practicing for weeks, conditioning themselves. I got in the day before I needed a PE credit, and I remember being the underdog. I didn't have conditioning, and I was like, oh, watch it. They're saying I'm not going to finish this mile. Watch me. I'm going to do it. And so to me, it's almost like I get motivated when, I wasn't the best dancer when I moved out to LA. I got on scholarship at the dance center. I had to take the most dance classes than anybody else on scholarship. And guess what? I was the only dancer that got 2 agents when it came time for performance. So it's like, I think that when you just choose to believe and you choose to focus on the 1%, no matter what that is, I've had so many naysayers, a lot. Like, even when I moved out to California, they're like, you'll be back. Why are you taking all your stuff? You're never going to make it there. And then I'm like, oh, really? Watch me. A month later, I'm on the MC Hammer video. I mean, I worked hard to get there, but I think that it's like, if you just, for me, I really think it's not just I couldn't do it alone. I really have a strong connection with my higher power, God. Yeah. And so I pray every day. If there's something that I don't know the answer, I pray on it hard the night before. And the answer always comes to me the next morning. It might not be the answer I want to hear, but it comes to me the next day. Yeah. But I think that you can train your mind to see the positive. You can really mentally train yourself, and it's a day in, day out process. It's not something that, I still have to train myself to look for the positive, because it's not always easy. And I think that I've taught that to my daughters. My youngest daughter, who's 12, she got a horse, and it was a pasture horse that had been injured. It was skinny. The fur was, it just wasn't pretty. It had a big scar going down its face, which I thought was cool. Mm-hmm. A lot of the other girls in the barn made fun of her. I can't believe you bought that horse. And, the other horses are thousands and thousands of dollars. This horse is like the underdog horse. So, of course, I'm like rooting for the horse. People are like, oh, you're never going to win anything on that horse. Well, she worked hard. She got thrown over fences, thrown over walls. She trained hard. They became a great team. She went and competed. The horse got stronger. She learned from all these challenges this horse put her through. They got first place out of 53 girls. And so amazing. She just, instead of focusing on all those comments that the other kids were making, instead of focusing on her horse wasn't the prettiest. He is now, by the way. I think he is now. But she focused on she was a team with that horse, that she had a horse. And that was something I had to talk to her about. I was like, do you know how blessed you are that you have a horse? Do you know how many little girls would just die to be able to have a horse? And so that's what she shifted her focus on, what she could do, and these little improvements every day. And so I think you can train yourself to see the good.
Yeah, I
love that so much. And really, that's kind of exactly what this show is all about. It's like, we feel the societal norm and media is focused on toxic and unhealthy relationships. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and we want to help change that. We want to co-create a world with you like we're doing now, a world where healthy relationships are the new norm. And if we focus on that, if people listen and focus and surround themselves with healthy relationships, then that's what they're going to have. That's what they're going to see. That's what they're going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so I love that as she focused on that, that's what ended up transpiring.
And especially to people listening, especially the relationship with ourselves, right? That relationship of like, no matter what you've been through, no matter what scars you have, no matter what traumatic situations you went through in your past, that it's still possible to have a really loving, supportive, empowering relationship with yourself, and how all of your relationships, right, get better, whether it's with your daughter and the horse, yourself and your partner. Yeah. And I have, a final question that I really want to get into, because I think so many people deal with pain. You talk about this as an epidemic, that so many people live in chronic pain, and how that shows up in your relationship with your partner. What has helped you, because I know if I'm not feeling good, the other day I wasn't feeling good, and I have less patience, I have less presence, because I'm in pain, or I don't feel good. And it's hard, so much harder to have good relationships. For anyone out there that also suffers from chronic pain or illness or any sort of thing like that, how have you and your partner, your husband, been able to keep a healthy relationship even with that?
Yeah. And those of you that don't have pain, maybe your pain is like you are homeschooling kids and, and lockdown. Pain can be many things, I think that, and that's the thing is, when you're going through something difficult, it doesn't just affect you. A lot of times it affects your partner. And so I think the only thing worse than my pain is knowing that my pain brings someone else pain. Like, I don't like when I want to do so much and I can't be the wife that I want to be. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
No sorries on this
You're
show.
sharing what so many women and or men feel right now. You know, you're just being brave about it.
It's just frustrating when, you know, I want to be able to do so much. And thank goodness my husband, like, there are times he can see the pain in my eyes. I still have that, like, oh, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to do all these things. And he'll look at me and he'll be like, you're in pain, aren't you? And then my mom can just talk to me on the phone and go, oh, you're hurting, aren't you? And so our moms know us best, but it is hard when you're dealing with pain in your relationship because you don't have as much patience. You don't, and so I think it's really important to have great communication. And I can't say that enough because in order to feel connected, I may need different things than my husband needs. He may need something more physical that I might not be able to provide for him. I might not, like, don't hug me so tight. Like, I'm in pain, just leave me alone, So I think it's really important to have communication because, and there's a book called The 4 Agreements that I love.
Great book.
Love that book.
And yeah, I think that helps with any relationship, but especially the part where don't take things personally. And I think that helps with both of us. But I think communication, I think it's really important that you take care of yourself, which for me, I was always last on the list. I didn't even make it on the list. I was like, I got to do this, all these things. And I think that in order to be a loving wife, I have to make sure that I'm putting myself on my list first and taking care of myself. And so I think that's why it's important to do what fills your heart and fills you, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that's why I have that morning routine where, I do my gratitude list. I do a workout, and my whole family knows, I'm like, if you want me to be a nicer mama, I'm going to have to work out. I'm going to have to move my body.
There's Rachel.
That's literally me. We've had that conversation so many times.
Yeah. And I keep her accountable too, because she's like, babe, if I don't go outside to go to the beach right away, or if I don't go upstairs and work out real quick, and if I get locked into work, she's like, babe, just tell me to get out there. And I'm like, babe, go move.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it?
It's so important. But being able to communicate that and set those boundaries and be like, this is what I need.
Know what you need,
Know what you need and fight for what you need, and have your partner also help you fight for what you need, and then you help them fight for what they need, Because if it's just not communicated, then we just never know what is.
That's right.
And then, my husband and I have been together for almost 15 years, and I have to really, I think it's important when you know what your values are and what your priorities are, and it helps you make better decisions. And for me, my first, my values and priorities is family. It comes first. And so I have to make sure that I'm treating my husband like he comes first, that he's important, that I'm not giving 110% at work, and then at the end of the day, I have nothing left for him. And that's one of the reasons that I stopped training clients one-on-one, because I love that. I love training. I've been training for 23 years, but I thought, this is not serving me. It's not serving my family, and I can make a greater impact if I do something different. And that's when I went to learn how to be a mindset coach and a life coach. And then I can do more people at once. I can have masterminds. I can do webinars. He helped me with that decision too. But I have to make sure that he knows, and I'm treating him like I would want to be treated,
Yeah, so true.
Absolutely.
And man, how many is that? So I think so many people, it's so easy to fall in that trap, especially if you are passionate about what you do, about what you love. We have to communicate that with each other all the time, because it is so easy to get give your work or your all, and then you show up for your relationship with a 5%, and you're like, what the hell? This is so ridiculous. But yet we're saying that our family or relationships is most important when our actions are not showcasing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for people listening, it's like really check in with like how much energy am I giving,
right.
To all the different areas of my life. And if it's imbalanced in any way, it's going to knock off the whole system.
Yeah, for sure. And it happened the other day. I was on Clubhouse and I was like one of the moderators and it was going on. And my family was like, we're leaving. It's Sushi Sunday. And you're about to miss out. We're going to go, we like pick up sushi and eat it in the back of the car,
Yeah.
Tailgate it. And I was like, hey, I was on Clubhouse. I'm like, hey, you guys, I love y'all. And it's been great, but my family's not on Clubhouse and they're about to leave me. So I got to go, you know? And sometimes you just have to, again, communication and know that, like you said, if you're given 100 and I love what I do. I love work. And so I feel like I could do it 24/7. I have to make myself stop.
Yes,
I'm like, boundaries.
Same,
I gotta stop.
Yeah.
I gotta, because I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when it's your passion and purpose, it's 24/7, 365. And so we certainly have to schedule the date nights and schedule the time where we do
the vacation,
family and friends and vacations that you talked about, all the things. And that structure creates freedom for us so that we can do all those things and keep a balance and so that we can continue to fill up our cup so we can let it overflow to everyone else in this world. So thank you so much for who you are, Amberly, and everything that you're about and everything that you shared. We're in our last segment now with the favorite finds, which of course is just, it could be recent, or it could be, a few months ago, whatever, but something that you've recently found. It could be a book, a poem, a restaurant, just any favorite find that you want to share with our audience. Please do.
Favorite find? Actually, my favorite find, and this is going to be kind of crazy to you. So I'm not tech savvy. I'm getting better with technology. And I just got this new computer. Now I have this little tiny laptop that was my first, I bought that to write my book, and it was the only thing that I ever had. So I was doing now virtual, coaching and events in this little laptop, and I would stack it up on books and stuff. So I finally have a desktop, and it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a real grown up.
I love it.
So I guess that's my favorite find.
I love it. That's so awesome. No, it's so helpful people listening, right? Like sometimes it's those purchases that really bring so much joy or confidence, or that really make a huge difference in the way that we feel, the way we show up. Because we're like, oh, I'm professional now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so much easier to do things, and it's so much faster and efficient. And I'm like, this is amazing. It's a miracle.
Yes.
Yeah.
The little things.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again, Amberly, for being on the show. This has been just such a gift. You are such a gift to the world, to our lives, and to, I know, everybody listening. Thank you so much for choosing to be a renegade. I love you. I always really think about this. Like in every moment, you could have chosen differently.
For sure.
Right? You could have chosen to be the victim. You could have chosen to give up. You could have chosen to not be here anymore, and then your kids wouldn't have a mom. Your husband wouldn't have the beautiful, wonderful, loving wife that you are. The world wouldn't have your story.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And it's so important. And I just can't imagine how many people might be listening to this who can't walk, who are in hospital beds, who just recently got in an accident or recently went through some crazy traumatic breakup, and hearing your story just gives them hope. And that is our mission on the show, is just hope. No matter what you've been through, it's still possible to create the love and lifestyle you've always wanted. It might not look the way you thought it was. It might not happen the way you thought it was going to happen or on your timeline. But if you keep going, you keep having hope, you use her PACER framework, that you really can. You can make it happen. So just thank you.
Amen to all of that.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. This has been such an honor. And anybody listening, please reach out. My favorite thing to do is connect with others. So
where can they find you, Amberly?
Well, I love hanging out on Instagram, and you can see some of the behind the scenes craziness on Amberly Lago Motivation, but you can always check everything out on my website, amberlylago.com, and I have some downloadable gifts there. And then check out my podcast, Amberly Lago, True Grit and Grace, and text me at 818-214-7378. And if you text the word grit, just GRIT, you'll get a downloadable, it's called the Goals, Grit, and Grace workbook, and it comes with the PACER method. So if there's anything you forgot, it's right there. And
And for those of you guys listening, if you're on the road or if you got to run to the other room to get a paper and pen, get it fast. Amberly, I'd love for you to repeat the number so that they can make sure to text that grit to you. So get your paper and pen, everybody. And Amberly, if you can say the number one more time for our listeners.
Yeah, it's 818-214-7378. Just text the word grit and get your, I like to call it a playbook because I like to play. Or just text me. You can just text me and I'll reach out.
That number is also on her Instagram too. So if you just go to her Instagram, you'll see everything on there, or her website, her book, her podcast. Like, it's just so incredible. So again, thank you for being the light that you are in the world. We just love you. We celebrate you. And everybody listening, go follow her right now at Amberly Lago Motivation on Instagram and all the other socials. And again, thank you for being a part of this show and helping us co-create a world where healthy relationships are the new norm, where people know how to create a space where they feel safe, seen, heard, and loved within themselves so that they can go create that with all their relationships. We love you. We see you guys. And please share this with anyone you think might need to hear it, because there's so much power in this episode. Could seriously change someone's whole life just by hearing what Amberly shared with us. So we love you guys. Again, you've listened to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And this is Emilio Palafox.
And we've been talking to Amberly Lago.
We love you, everybody.
And we will see you guys next time.